don't know how to balance freedom with responsibility.
Wonderful, thank you very much. This is it, the Truth Breakfast Show. Today is Monday, and as usual is Tov. If you've been following our presentation for the past several days, last week we placed the emphasis on, of course, the events of 1979, specifically April 14 that year, and of course those are political issues that preceded that bloody Saturday here in Monrovia. It's important that we talk about it. We expand it to talk about, of course, the role of those people that have now been referred to as the progressive. What did they do that we as members of today's generation can attract as benefit? What did they do for this country? They did fend the process that led to April 12 the following year. So this morning, I'm privileged to have with me a panel that is composed of three contemporary Liberians, I like to call them. They are people of today, and they've been following national development, and of course, they have a fair appreciation of what happened in 1979. Today, I have with me Bobby Livingstone. He used to work with the National Elections Commission, Antoinette Law. I have with me the man who is not silent on national issue, Mr. Darius Dillon. He's from the Liberty Party, and of course our media colleague from the Liberian Media Center, Larmie, Kpargoi. We're going to talk about April 14, 1979 and the lesson learned. Gentlemen, good morning to each and every one of you, and welcome to the True Breakfast Show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the invite.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And let me start with Mr. Livingstone. You want to get the ball rolling? What do you know about that day? What's the lesson you've learned? What we should guard against? And what we should uplift as a consequence of what happened in 1979? Go ahead.
I think firstly, it's a sad part of our history whenever we reflect on the happenings of the Rest Riot in 1979. And that I think we should do everything we can within our power and our own reasoning never to have a revisit of that kind of situation. I think the issue of the Rest Riot brought into the limelight some of the tragic events that have attended our existence as a country. The issue of where a bulk of the people continue or were at the place, at the position where the rest issue was just a triggering matter. There were a cluster, a litany of issues that rest issue just ignited. And for me, that is the bottom line that we should never erase from our minds. Not that single event, but the issues that surrounded the triggering, what triggered that event. Of course, no event, no day can we ever have an applause for any group of Liberian or any Liberian to be shot and killed by bullets. And of course, you know the history is there. Over 200 plus got victimized by that tragic event. So today, to fast forward, what do I see? There has been some tremendous changes. We cannot discount that. Important of which, one of the important transitions I think we have made as a result of April 14, 1979 issue is that people like to talk. People want freedom to express their guilt or their hurts. And today we have a semblance of that in our country. And I think that is good. And we must cultivate it, we should nurture it, so that never again should we coerce people to go under the table to get to work or react, or those kinds of diversionary or subversive kind of way of putting up their opposition or their stance against the state. So I think if I were to put it that where are we today, of course, the issues that attended April 14, 79, have they been addressed? Of course, my answer is no. The issue of marginalization, the issue of power being centered in the focus, power being centralized, the issue of bulk of the people continue to be economically deprived amidst the resources of the country that we have. Those issues need to be attended to. And more to that, to end, before to get space for my colleagues, the issue of whether leaders are paying attention to what those who are being governed are saying. Does it matter to them? Are they heeding the cause of the hungry people? Are they heeding the cause of those in the slums and ghettos of our country? That is the issue. And lastly, the issue of press freedom. We can applaud the government. There is a semblance of press freedom in our country today. There is a preponderance of newspaper, radio stations, and the rest of them. We must commend the government for that. But does a free press that is not responsible, that do not have a trained manpower, that is still languishing in terms of having the adequate resources, can we boast of that kind of media? That is what we are.
Okay, very well. Let's move on now to Mr. Dillon. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mamadi. Permit me, please, firstly to observe 5 seconds of silence in respect to the passing of the late chairman of the Council of State, Chairman Dillon.
Yeah, deserving.
Thank you very much. Let me say good morning to our people listening to my radio. Well, the issue of 1979, I hold a view, was not just about rights, RRCE. The RRCE aspect was used as a launching pad. Because if the issue of 1979 was about the RRCE, then I think we should be having more demonstrations today. The price of rice is hiking. Our people, most of them cannot afford. I think the issue of 1979 was used as a launching pad to announce the presence of a new group. And the new group known today as the Progressives. The argument whether they succeeded or they failed can be taken from different angles. What was their objective? The objective was to ensure that Liberia would enjoy and practice multi-party democracy. Are we enjoying that today? The answer is a resounding yes. Is that success? Yes. But was it only about practicing or enjoying multi-party democracy? If there were other variables, are those variables different today? Are they better off or are they worse? Those are the angles we have to discuss the issue about the Progressives and whether they succeeded and what lesson we can learn from it. One key thing we can learn from what the Progressives practiced was that first they had a focus, second they had a leadership. Today our generation is lacking when it comes to a sense of direction, when it comes to leadership. The Progressive era, their generation, they had leadership. They knew, they took into consideration that their leaders would not be injured. Every human being has a shortcoming. But they rallied around whoever they decided was to form part of or to make their leadership. And they forged ahead, they made their case, and we are where we are today. My issue is the Progressives from history did not call for a race riot. Even though they deceived our people, they took advantage of the condition and ignorance of our people, and they put them in the street in the name of going to demonstrate against the hike in price of rice. From history, what I do know, there was a recommendation made by the Minister of Agriculture by the time, by 1978, and it was inserted in the 1979 annual message of President Toba, to the effect that a recommendation to increase tariff on imported rice, so as to and also reduce the tariff on locally produced rice. The intent, the recommendation had objective. The objective was to discourage the importation of rice and also encourage local farmers to grow more rice so that Liberia will be self-sufficient in the staple, our own national staple. But when I listen to the late Kpargoi Matthew, peace be to his ashes, and my reference is a film documentary called The Liberia Uncivil War. I have a copy of that film documentary. Kpargoi Matthew was interviewed, and he said the reason he went against that recommendation, the recommendation was not implemented. They went against that recommendation because at the time, Tobo and his family were the largest producers of local rice. So to empower local farmers would be empowering the Tobo family to the disadvantage of other Liberians. So Kpargoi Matthew and his progressive group thought it that recommendation would benefit the Tobo family more than the ordinary farmers. And so they went against it. They took advantage of the fact that our people were ignorant to these things. And of course, you know, even today, with all the education and sophistication Liberians have, most of us measure our success by the price of bag of rice. So anybody who can come here today and make a good case that the price of bag of rice is high, so let's go demonstrate, you will find even educated people demonstrating, without taking into consideration the economic variable between then and now.
Okay, thank you very much for those introductory remarks. Let's move over to Larmie. Larmie, your take.
For me, I think that the onus to protect the society is largely falls on the government. So, I have listened to a lot of people talk different things about what happened on April 14, 1979. How people fool other people's kids to go in the street to demonstrate and they were shot. They decided the decision to shoot the people was not made by the people themselves. It was made by the people who carried the weapons, the people who had control over the violence at the time. It was made by them. So the government had a capacity to say we will not shoot anybody. But the government decided to shoot people. So I find it kind of difficult to blame the people who are being named as progressives. I find it kind of difficult to blame them for that violence. It's like saying Sharpeville was the fault of the ANC or the PAC. It's like saying that Soweto was the cause, the reason why the students were shot and killed in Soweto was because the students were wrong to demonstrate. It's like saying if Martin Luther King died because he was wrong to stand against apartheid in the United States. So for me, I find it very, very difficult to go down the same line as blaming the people who only wanted to peacefully assemble. One. Two, they had a legitimate perception of something going wrong in the society, so they wanted to address it. And I think for people who call themselves political actors, that's what they should do. You are there to look at what the government is doing and check the government or advance ideas. I have listened to different accounts. I listened to Mr. Matthews prior to his death, I think somewhere there in the 1990s. And Mr. Matthews was talking about the fact that there was no justification for the increase in the price of rice at the time, because even almost 25 years later in the 1990s, the economic situation had not changed so significantly to justify the price that the government was trying to put in place in 1979. And even if you hear people say it was just an annual statement, it was never announced that it was going to be done. But the president's speech is policy. If the president did not intend to do something, there's absolutely no reason why he would go to the legislature and say we are considering doing it. Absolutely not. And if these guys lash onto that and decide that they will agitate, they will raise issues about it, I mean, that's their right. They did not take weapons to go and shoot themselves. So people who now trying to sit and look back and maybe like Mr.
that there was going to be a demonstration and have passed the orders that should or do this. And within that frame of reference, once these guys, the people were already gathered, they thought that there was an opportunity that these are the people they were talking about. And even without making a move, but because they saw they assembled, and with the prior knowledge that these are the people who are going to demonstrate, they opened up fire. And it became rancorous and chaotic in the entire country, city. So I think it is a sad time that it's unfortunate that we had a situation. But I am more concerned about the lessons that what have we been able to gather from that incident. And I come on this discourse that have we shifted, has there been a shift of paradigm with respect to those issues that prompted that demonstration? And for me, that is where as a country we need to draw the analysis more closer. Rather, it has happened, of course, and there's no way that we can proceed in this country without looking at some of the issues of the past to be able to direct the course of our future. But I'm saying, where are we today? Are things moving for the better that we will not have a situation that we have in 1979? That is what we're supposed to be thinking of. And I'm saying, if the issue
Do you
was...
think there was a real compelling need for the people to come on the street?
Yes, I have said that.
Yeah, what was the need?
At the time...
I think it was justified what happened for the people to come in the face of... because the accounts are varied, they have different views. There were people who are saying that the intent was just a mere intent, but it was not implemented, and there was not more tangible evidence to prove that the government was about to do that. And of course, there were attempts on the part of peace brokers to talk to backers and other people to back up.
If I may say something to that, I don't think it's wise to come back to blame those actors at the time. I mean, Mr. Matthews, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Kuya, and all those people, or Mr. Wiesel. I don't think it's right to come back to blame them.
No, that is not about blame. It's just asking a question.
No, whether it was just a suggestion that the government had made about increasing prices,
because you said a policy.
The president's statement is a policy.
Not necessarily,
No, the president's statement to the legislature, you yourself said that it was in an annual message, right? It was annual report. Yeah, you said it was an annual report that was put into the annual message.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that.
But whether it was an annual
report from
these are some of the facts
as far as the legislature.
These are some of the facts about 1979, the rights issue. These are some of the facts that we all are not very sure about what actually.
This is why we're making an issue with discussing.
But the point is whether it was just a suggestion or whether it was a policy or not. The point is
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. These guys were within their rights. Let me just get to my point. These guys were within their rights to decide to oppose it, to preemptively oppose it. They were 100% within their right.
But to flag it from report as if government has announced an increase.
No, that forget about the fine print issue. Is that they were within their rights 100% to decide to preemptively. Let's assume that it was a preemptive strike. They were within their right to preemptively decide that these people want to do this. We are saying no.
Yeah,
and the government wasn't really serious about doing that. There was absolutely no reason why they were going to get involved in the negotiations with those people on that premise. They were never going to do it. They were going to say, this thing we're not even considering doing it, so no need to discuss it. Okay. But the fact that they went into discussions with them, it means that they were seriously contemplating doing it. Okay, that's just one point.
Somebody said because they wanted change. They wanted change in the system. This is what they did.
Yeah, but many people clamoring for change even long before that point.
But there was some indication that change was coming gradually.
Yeah, change was delayed, and it happened at a point that it probably should have happened. It should have happened earlier than that, and did not happen.
Okay, Darius, you want to answer that?
Yeah, Mamadi, look, let's face it. If you spoke to Blamon Nelson,
he was with us the last time.
Dr. Marcus Dunn, even if you resurrected Marcus today, speak to Dr. Tipota, they will tell you, as they have grown older, they have grown wiser and more mature.
That's the point. You mean those actors that time were younger?
Let me state this. I spoke to Senator Blamon Nelson one day. And he said, Darius, if we have to do again those things we did yesterday, we'll do some differently today. That was a huge statement. That they were young.
Is that an implication that he regretted?
Well, you see,
They didn't do it the right way.
there are some things. Look, they rocked the boat
Too much.
too much that it capsized, and when it boat capsized, some of them couldn't swim. You understand?
You bring that to reality.
That's the reality.
No, bring that to reality.
The
What
reality.
did they do to rock the boat that was not deserving of being rocked?
Well, they wanted change. They wanted to announce that they were here for change. You understand?
Okay.
But they
So
went.
they used the resting as a pretext.
They used the resting as a
But
protest.
what wrong with people asking for change?
No, there's nothing wrong with people asking for change.
Okay.
But how you proffer that change, how you push it. You understand? We wanted to get rid of those.
They want to say don't increase the price of rice.
Fine, but was there the intent to even want to increase the price of
I'm
rice?
not talking about preempting the.
I don't have problem with their preemptive strike.
Okay.
I'm saying they had on the ignorance of the people. There was an intent.
Okay.
The price of rice that was to be increased was with the intent to encourage more local farmers producing rice.
That's
So
not
you
intent.
understand the intent? I'm coming.
That's not an
Let me come to
excuse.
that. I'm coming.
You'll come to
The
that.
intent
Was good.
was good. No, increase the price of imported rice so that people can be discouraged to buy because of the
What's the
price.
fact of the Toba family having stake in rice importation?
Fine. That was where Barcos and his group hopped on to say, look, this intent is intended to only benefit the Toba family.
Which was wrong to you?
To me, that was it was disingenuous on part of Barcos and his peers to have thought that by Liberia producing rice to be self-sufficient will only benefit the Toba. Even if it were going to benefit the Tobas at the time, it was going to have a trickle-down effect, and more farmers, local farmers, will have come on the market.
Do you agree with him, Bobby?
I do agree on this particular point.
Okay, say you agree. Let's look at Larmie, who is in disagreement from his signals.
No, my point is that regardless of whether you want to stimulate local production or not, you probably
So
will
you
do
should
it.
take that into consideration. He's indicating that Baka was deceptive.
No, I don't think so. And it would not be wise to speak wrong of the dead, especially where he's
No,
like,
this is history.
he's like, no, but this history is contentious. No, this history is contentious. It is.
So you want to go into another
I also made mention of the fact that I remember Barcos talking about the economic situation at the time did not justify the price increase. Even 25 years later in the 1990s.
Do you think about the intent that he talked about?
They intend to stimulate growth.
Yeah.
There are other ways that you could do that.
For example,
Without adding on to the people's cost of living.
Was not wrong.
No, I'm not talking about whether it was wrong to stimulate
No,
local growth.
that was an issue.
No. Mama, the point here is,
My understanding
if
is
you want to stimulate local
that the
growth,
government decision to increase the price of rice was wrong.
yeah,
Okay,
he
and
did.
Darius is proffering that there was an intent embedded in that decision. That is to stimulate local production and make importation more expensive. That Liberians will not buy imported rice, but they go for local rice.
No, but you don't do that. You don't do that abruptly.
It was not a brawl. It was not.
How do you say that? It's not a brawl.
Yeah.
How do you say that?
The history says.
Even if you want to do that, you don't. But my point is, you don't increase
What
people's
is
cost of living. You don't
increase.
increase people's cost of living because you say you want to stimulate local growth. You probably stimulate local growth first, then you can put tariff on the imported stuff. You probably do that.
Okay.
But to just sit there and say, I want to increase local production, and then the fact that the guys are looking at the market variables. Who is going to benefit from this most? Those are political decisions that when people making, they have to think. Who benefits from this most? They sat there and said, okay, the people who benefit from this most is the president and his family. Was it right for you to decide to increase tariff on rice because eventually you will benefit from it? Because that would be the conclusion from that.
As you know, was there any tangible indication that this decision will have been taken, or was it really announced? Probably as of today's date or tomorrow, after tomorrow, the price of rice will move from A to B.
That's a point of contention that is not too clear in history. As I said, if the government did not seriously consider increasing the price of rice at the time, they were never going to get involved in dialogue with those people. They would have never done
But
it.
even the issue of dialogue too is contentious. Yeah,
they did dialogue with them around the rights issue. They did too.
And the dialogue did not hear anything. Darius.
Look, the thing here is, you ask a question. With that, is there a possibility for us to revisit 1979?
But we're talking about that. If we're not careful, the same things will happen.
Yeah, right. Our looking back, we think similarly.
Okay.
We almost had a replay of April 12 or April 14 last year. Okay.
No,
Three young men. No, listen. This is how Kpargoi and his group started. 3 to 4 young men last year called on the radio, said we're suffering in the town, and when April 12 we'll go demonstrate. Whether we like it or not, these young men were able to muster almost 80% of the Liberian people support.
I disagree with you.
That's a fast-fetched conclusion.
You understand? My statistics is not scientific. You understand?
Then don't state it.
Okay, no, excuse me.
Then you are deceiving us.
No, listen. I'm being honest here. Whether we like it or not, that group had a good percentage of support for our people in this country to the point where it had to claim not only the attention of national government, but our international partners. You understand? Had they been resolute, like the Kpargoi Mafia at the time, who said they would not listen to any voice of reasoning, all the things, the negotiation that Larmie talked about, that the Tower administration engaged with the Kpargoi and his peers, but the similar thing this government did with this group that wanted to do their April 12 last year. And they back off because they said they were listening to the voice of reason. I think they didn't have the courage to pursue where they started. You understand? Kpargoi then had the courage to pursue where they started, even though they did something on a deceptive note.
Bobby? Yeah, when I listen to Darius on the issue, there's an important thing he mentioned that we should also crystallize more effectively in this program. The issue of the timing of the incident and what was the overarching goal of the guys who were the forerunners of that whole incident. And like he said, and rightfully, these are guys who some of them had just returned from studies in Europe, and very young and very zealous, and they had this Western education. And you also have to see the timing. There was a political dispensation, international geopolitical dispensation, the issue of the Cold War, and sympathy could be gotten in some respect, especially where they could project the argument of the linkage of the government at the time to Eastern Bloc. And the issue, even how Liberians were smuggled out of here to go into Eastern countries to study. Those issues were flagged by the very progressive, okay? And that was a way of winning some sympathy from international actors. And it worked against the Togo regime, obviously. And so the unfortunate part is that they were not prepared, and I don't know up to now whether they are still prepared to provide leadership for this country. And that is aggressive. Yes, I can say that very. Without stupor, they are not at this moment. I don't even think they are prepared to provide leadership for this country.
What are the indications?
There are a lot of indications. For example, I would like to go into the issue of the consistency of their politics. There is a situation where there's a disconnect in the timing of what they have projected as a political ideology and the practical manifestation on the ground. For example, these people, these progressives, are not people who are rooted within grassroots arenas. They just use those people at the time basically to be able to advance their political interests.
So you say the same thing, were deceptive.
But I have said that. Okay. I have said that. But I'm being clear about that.
Okay, but let's bring it to contemporary Nigeria. You said that some of the things that happened during those days still exist now, and then there are signs and signals that we could go back to April 14 if they corrected measures.
I will come.
So the fundamental point there is that they were fighting for rights. And among those rights was the rights to associate, rights to speak freely.
Precisely.
And
right.
just as a contradictory indication that we are free today.
Yeah.
Freedom of the press is existing. So do we have any reason to agitate like those young people there at the time?
We do not have to use the same methodology.
Okay.
We in a different era and different dispensation. But when I say that, I'm not sure if they're prepared to provide leadership. Is that they have not put in basic institutional frameworks. For example, an organization that is well taught and carved and conceived will be a concept that will regenerate itself. But you find out that the progressive, when certain lines of people are gone, that whole concept of progressivism will be dead and obsolete in Liberia. And they have not made any framework
but
to be able to.
Progressive in the making.
Yeah, but the new progressives and that old progressive form, they have no point of convergence. All right, okay. I consider myself a progressive,
so, back to the question.
But I'm not a progressive of the whole order.
Indication that we should or we will go back to violence because of what happened in the past.
One thing I've seen is that for the last 20 years plus, most of the issue of agitation and the reactionary tactics have been deployed and utilized by the progressives, the so-called progressives, and it has been a clamor to get a piece of the national power. And it's not so much whether they provide a better political alternative to govern this country. And in that mindset, then there's a trouble. Because the sin ails. Today it is visible. They are a strategic component of this government. And you see the things that are unraveling on a day-to-day basis. No, I'm setting my argument. And the point is, for example, you and I know the issue of marginalization. We talk about that. The issue of where political power is still concentrated in the hands of few, and they are the ones who control the resources of the country. I work personally out of Monrovia. I know what I'm talking about. And if democracy cannot deliver to the men in Grand Jide, if democracy cannot deliver to the men in Bokonjide in Lofa County, then we have to sit down around the table and do some sort of re-engineering. And this is where my problem with the progressive comes. If you have been the one agitating that you want this for the government, for the people of Liberia to have rice, RRCE, to also have RRGHT, rice, what is it that you've been able to do within the framework that you have today? And this is a glaring opportunity. And beware, in moments that they were not in the ministry of government, they were the one in the western capitals and bad muffin governments that were on the ground.
So it's not about job. Yeah.
It's about getting their pie, their share of the national pie.
Dillon, what's your take on that?
Look, let me tell you. In as much as I think the guys hopped on an issue, they took advantage of an issue that was not in reality, I gave them credit. Today, the difference between the progressives and today, I have almost reached the point where advocacy, what a political advocacy or activism today, it's difficult to distinguish who is speaking out of conviction or who is speaking because they are sponsored. We said it here the last time. On our generation, we got more advocacy groupings than backwards in time. What have we achieved? Backwards then had in 2 or 3. Moja, Pa, and Suzuku. You know the same thing.
That's the University of also.
We can come more than 10 organizations during their time. Today, every day there is a new organization formed.
What's that? The freedom they fought for. So we
not just the freedom. When you don't have a clear objective, if you don't have the principle and the courage,
they're not sincere.
You understand, when you don't have the courage to pursue what you're advocating for, that's what happens. If a car broke down today on Broad Street, there will be Citizens United to move the car from on Broad Street. You understand? Every situation in this country has an organization formed spontaneously
to handle it.
To handle it.
A freedom of expression.
Freedom of expression.
Happy about that?
Listen, when backwards then started their struggle, they insisted that they will see it through. Whether we like it or not, They've seen it through, for which reason we sit in the studio today.
Okay.
You understand? When we on our generation start our struggle, the big guys up there only need to find the weakness in our midst. Take flour for instance. I'm not saying it is flour, I'm just using it. Let flour issue a statement, a critical statement on national issue today. Tomorrow morning, some members of flour will issue a counter statement against the statement or the position of the leadership of flour that it does not represent.
Only because the people are hungry.
Precisely my point. Because them too were hungry.
But
at least they have principle.
Okay, I mean your point on the same line. What is agreement or disagreement? Go ahead.
Yeah, for me, I'm not going to talk about opportunism. Although there are people from the generation, from that particular group, I mean, certain time they take certain positions on the events of that time, and then in more recent years, we see them revising their thoughts and saying that we were wrong.
They are more mature now.
No, not because they are more mature. probably because they are
on a retirement package.
Yeah, probably because they are benefiting from the system now, so they change their views as to what it should be. People like that, I got very little respect for. You know, because
they're not consistent.
Yeah, consistency is one thing. But also you have to consider the fact that if you consciously, I don't buy the argument that because the people were young, I mean, age was a factor, but these were all guys who have gone to school and gotten very good education.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter whether they were 25 or they were 30 years old. Many of us have gone through the same age range and we did not do stupid things. So it can be a justification for why they were wrong. So I will not toe the line that every one of them were opportunistic. No, many of them were not. Okay. There were some of them who have proven over time that they were only in it because they wanted to sit at the table too. Yeah. Now they sit there, they've changed their views, and everything was bad.
Thank you. Thank you very much. His name is Larmie, and he comes from the Liberian Media Center. Thank you very much for your contribution to this platform. I want to also say thanks to Mr. Darius Dillon and of course our other panelists and Mr. Bobby Livingstone. We have a tradition here. We're going to interact with those of you out there. What you think about the comments of our guest this morning. 0777 469794 is the number to call.
0777 469793.
As usual, let me get Mr. Koti on, and he's getting prepared. Let's see what he has to say about some of the things that were said.
Thank you.
I mean, you got plenty of dogs in your yard, huh?
I know you're not dodging my line. You always take my calls, and thank you.
Okay,
let me say thanks to my good friends in studio. I know two of them, but not the Kpargoi fella. Maybe I don't remember. But let me say this. I think we're going to be very ungrateful to say because the progressives were speaking against ills yesterday, and they're not doing it today, so they are inconsistent. That's an unfair statement. Okay. Now, today we are sitting in studio like you now, and like Darius Dillon said, there are more than 50 or 100 groups around today who are advocating.
Including the flashpoint.
Including me, yeah. Do you expect people who started this struggle here by 20, 30 years ago to continue? Are they not aging? Why did they prepare us to speak also? And the next thing I want to make clear to you people in the studio is that the way things were going before, in those days, is not the way it's happening now. We do agree that there are still some problems with corruption that is everywhere, not only in government. But to say that they must keep fighting, that people fought for freedom of speech. It's happening today. You want them just to keep talking? Talk what?
Okay. So in short, there are no issues to talk for.
Well, there are some issues, but not as random as the ones in the past.
Okay.
In the past, people were not allowed to do certain things, and today they are happening. So what I mean, what I'm saying is that, like for example, what I'm going to talk about is multi-partyism. And this we have it today. It is private with just one party, so say one, so say all. All of these good things that people fought for are happening today.
Thank you.
And so the corruption issue, only in heaven you will not find it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll take 3 more calls, then we'll go over to Solomon to receive some calls. Good morning. Good morning. Go ahead. Hello. Yeah, go ahead. You're live. This is the Truth Breakfast Show. Okay, I can get to you also. Let me take this one. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Dillon, sir.
Mr. Kota, it's been quite a long time we've not talked.
Well, when you
Okay. He has confirmed that.
Let me say the first thing that I do agree partly with our friend
Yeah, Bobby Livingstone.
That was
Bobby Livingstone.
the man from the Liberal Party.
The progressives, are now in government.
Uh-huh.
And many of us continue to suffer injustice. And the injustice that will cause before the gate. And why aren't they protecting some of us?
You want to be clear on that? What do you mean many of us are suffering injustice?
The issue of marginalization, exclusion, the issue of extreme poverty in the land.
Okay.
Many of these progressives talk about it during the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And then those of us who speak against it, suffer, at the hands of some of the powers that be.
Okay.
Then for the part of Dillon, there are people in Liberia who really advocate from what they believe. And I don't think we should erase that. There are some men and women in our society who speak strongly of what they believe. And they are not bought over.
Okay.
And so we have to really strike the balance between, the guys who are in government. Because none of them have now changed overnight.
Okay.
And what surprised us is that they drive the authority. I mean, they are the hand of power. They're able to change situation and condition for ordinary men and women in society. Why are they not doing this? Where the principle of the progressives, those principles they lay down for many of us, to follow.
All right, Mr. Kota, thank you very much for the contribution. Okay, let me add this final one, and of course we'll go over to Mr. Webb. Good morning.
My name is Waka.
Go ahead, Mr. Jelly.
Yeah, money, I think I'm right. Some of the gains that we have today, that we have in 2023,
Mm-hmm.
the private radio station that comes from every morning,
Mm-hmm.
air and views, is half today. The kind of discussion we now have is doing is we are not going to benefit like this of the progressive struggle. I think normally if we're not very careful, we will fall into the dark bay. Everything that you got is fought for. Nobody just another 20 years down the line. Just 20 years down the line. That you will maybe have a multiplicity of radio stations. But then we have one field of play. Just push the president. Ultimately, don't wear the position, but don't isolate this part of the progressive struggle.
Okay. But I'm not sure that any of my guests here are discounting everything. Are you there? Okay, so go ahead. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning, you live. Okay. Thank you. You've made a point. Time. Good morning.
Okay. Okay. We're talking about the panelists in studio now. Community wisdom has gone. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello? I didn't cut you. Let me take my final call. Good morning. Zero attack.
Thank you very much. Let's go across the table. At least I give you.
Let me just take this female caller. Good morning. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's start with you, Larmie, your concluding point.
Yeah, my concluding point is that the events of April 14, 1979, it would be wrong for us to blame those people who decided to exercise their constitutional right to assemble peacefully and to also consult their government. That's something that is enshrined in our constitution, and they had the right to do it.
Okay.
The government's decision to use violence against them was wrong. It would be altogether wrong to history for us to continue blaming those people for getting killed because they decided to exercise their rights. It's altogether wrong for us to continue doing that. And I don't think it's good for the younger generations coming up to continue that line of discourse. To say that people were wrong, the guy in the street, and that the reason why people use violence against them. I mean, continue doing that will be taking too much away from our country.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dillon.
Well, thank you. I maintain that Barkers, the late Barkers Matthew, and the progressives did not fail totally, yet they did not succeed totally. It's left to us, this generation, to take up from where, right. And I just want to hammer this point again. I like the way it is resonating with young people. I think we try to redefine our kind of advocacy. You understand? Today in Liberia, let me make this statement emphatic. It's difficult to distinguish between advocacy of conviction and advocacy of sponsorship. You understand? And we should redefine ourselves as young people the way we go about this advocacy. You understand? What are some young people who take issues with it? They choose hands. You understand?
I know.
Liberia is the only country from where our Darius Dillon, and I'm sure all of us here cannot be deported.
They can have you. They can deport you from one country.
It's almost legally impossible to deport you.
You
understand? Well, you see, you can be removed from your country for right. Now, the fact that you can be in self-imposed exile or political exile, whatever. The fact that I believe that I cannot be deported from this country.
Yeah, right.
That is why I owe this country a conscious and nationalistic responsibility to make it better for all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby Livingstone. Your concluding points.
The progressives cannot be totally discounted. As I said in my opening statement with the issue today, we have plurality of parties, semblance of freedom of expression. But the key question, which was the epitome of their struggle, was for leadership. and to provide an alternative leadership. And in my mind, they have not stood up to be that alternative, to provide that alternative leadership. They are still mixed up with the ills of the past, and I think today their relevance has dwindled. And so I would just say that we need to now resurrect a debate for a new kind of progressivism in Liberia, which some of us are prepared to avail ourselves with.
I think you can start the new kind of progressivism that is required to move the motherland forward. I want to say a big thank you to my three distinguished panelists. They are all contemporary Liberians. Thank you for coming. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll bring you news and information from the Waters Post. Stay tuned.
Ross, we gotta get some reality right here. Turn up my microphone. Shit.
You know, if I didn't want to react to that, you know, they say, but we